think I've been in bush about 6 days, and I'm keeping the average on the goal, but I thought it'd be worthwhile having a filler. I mean, people have asked me what it's like being out bush, and you can probably this time of the year the flies are good at the moment because it's been so damn windy, and we had a big storm last night, and that I slept through. But I did notice the winds this morning. The winds had been so bad that I got a little tear on the corner of the wall in my new awning, but they were horrendous. We had wind gusts up to around 80 kilometres an hour from what I understand. So yeah, I was so relaxed last night, or tired, I don't know, but I slept clean through it. So anyway, I thought it might be an opportunity just to have mates over there having a bit of a prospect. I'll give you a quick show around camp. So for those that you that watch the videos and aren't particularly prospectors, or watch it because you like to watch prospecting, but you're not a prospector, you just enjoy watching somebody, a prospector, I suppose it's kind of hard to get your head around on what the life of a prospector might be like. So I've had this year off mostly. I've had a few things. I had a prang in my car that took a while to get fixed. I lost the wheel, and I got pretty crook. I've been pretty crook for most of the year, but I'm getting back on the mend. That's something I'm going to talk about in a separate video. Not particularly, me being crook, but about my take on this whole world of medicines and that now, guys. But that's something that's on loan. It may be a very controversial chat, I suppose, but that's coming. What's it like to be out in the bush? Currently we're 137 kilometres, I think, from Leonora being the closest town. We're a little bit further from Laverton. So I suppose we're about in the centre between Laverton, Leinster and Leonora. I'll just do a quick swing around and so you can appreciate the remoteness that I'm talking about here. So you can have some nice camp spots. We've had elevated ones with views. We prefer not to be too elevated. We prefer to be a little bit private. It's good that when you're in the season where you can have fires, or when you have lights and such, it's good to not be too exposed. You really don't want too many people knowing that you're out and about. So a lot of people, I suppose, would consider this to be a pretty rough sort of life, but a lot of people would think it would just be a great camping. And I suppose the only difference between a lot of people do go camping a lot and prospectors that prospect, pretty much full time or as long as they can. And it's mostly driven by heat. I can't prospect when it's stinking hot. And a lot of prospectors very rarely touch the ground in that couple of months where, we're running over 40 degrees. But I suppose there's a couple of differences, and plenty of people out there with campers, much like mine, off-road campers. But I suppose the difference is I lived out of this for pretty much 8.5 months, my last full year prospecting and full-time prospecting, and I don't have a toilet. I do carry a porta potty, but a chemical toilet really doesn't cut it, because you can only use it you can only use it so many times. And once you've done that, it's have to be emptied. On a location like this, 127, 128 kilometres from the nearest town, which is the nearest dump point, it's a 3-hour drive just to empty the porta potty. So I generally tend to use the old dig and cover. There's some rules with that I apply to, and I think most people should. Dig the hole good and deep. Goannas and that, well, they'll dig them back up lickety slick. And burn your toilet paper, so if they do dig it back up, you don't end up with toilet paper blowing around the place. And I tend to do that. I tend to burn my toilet paper and then bury it all in. And then there's no toilet paper flapping around the place if a goanna or a wild dog or something tends to come through and dig it up, which is what happens. So there's one difference, the amount of time. I suppose the other big difference is, people that come out full-time camping in a camper trailer or doing it remote, often they won't be in locations like this. It's not a tourist park. There's no facilities. There's nothing out here, and the going can be pretty rough at times. So it can get quite lonely too if you're not with company. So as a full-time prospector, I try and carry a month's worth of food. I will just go over and have a look at my victuals box, because it's hard to keep food fresh. So I used to carry 2 of these boxes. I'm carrying 3 now. These are I love these front runner boxes. I bought these, they weren't given to me. Front runner, you can throw me another couple if you want, because I can tell you I love them. But you can see, I just store all my condiments and such in there. I've got a few veggies in there. They won't stay in there much longer. There's only a little bit in there, and I'm using at the moment. Generally the veggies will come out, I'll put them in open bags and I'll put them in the drawer in the dark to keep them fresh. I don't have enough fridge space for it. So I have a lot of rice, I cook a lot of pasta, I don't have a lot of meats, a bit of fish, mostly tin fish, and generally some chicken that I'll cryovac before I leave and put in the freezer. Milk, long life milk is the only go, and you have to make provisions or design yourself around when you have limited resources about how much food can I take, how much fresh food can I take, can I store bread. I rarely bring bread. I went in town today, and as a treat got some bread. I got myself some bread, and I'll have some tomato sangers in that next couple of days while I'm out prospecting. But in these conditions, especially this weather, bread lasts no time at all. You open it up in 2 days, she's going mouldy. And you also got to be very careful in some areas about what fresh breeds you do have, because you get a lot of critters out here. Snakes, not so much a problem. I've seen some really big snakes, but I tend to try and not put myself in an area situation where they're likely to be having a bit of a snooze or getting about. But any tins I open, or any empty milk containers, anything like that, and there's nothing there at the moment because I've done a run in town, but generally a spot out here, I'll just throw my tins in there out so they get full sun and they'll dry out, and then I can put them away. Because if it's going to attract any critters, and talking about critters, the last campsite that we're at up at was it Nulla? Oh no, it might have been Meekatharra on the way back from Nullagine last year. But I had about I suppose about a 2.5 foot, or maybe 3 foot little bungarra. It was living in an old rabbit warren about 15 metres away from the back of my camp, and every morning he'd come out, he'd walk across, he'd have a look at the tins or whatever there. I used to leave a bit of water out for him actually to keep him away from Barnes, because he used to come over and eat Barnes's food and walk in and bloody drink Barnes's water. So I used to put some water out for him. But you want to keep those critters away from camp. Ants is another problem. Haven't been so bad here up in Nullagine. Bit of a problem with an ant infestation out there. They'll start to take over, and they make a line up any cables you've got to go in your camper. So Talcum powder sorts that out. So I sleep in the rooftop tent that's on the camper. I've got a doona laid there, an inflatable mattress, a doona on top of that, a sleeping bag on top of that is rated down to -1. It's good and comfortable, and I'll leave it open because it's quite warm. I only half close in winter time. I cannot sleep with something fully closed. So that's my Drifter Stockton rooftop tent that I've upgraded to at one stage. Oh, my door's wide open. End up with a flat battery. So I'll keep my clothes up in there as well. I've got a fan in there because we've had a couple of warm nights. But I sleep really well up there. I like to be off the ground. Barnes has managed to put a little bit of a hole in the mesh there, so I'm getting a few midges in, but it's not too bad. Before next year, I will be replacing that with one of the new Drifter clamshell tents. So I've got a tub in the front here. I hold important things in there. There's chainsaw in there, water buckets, hoses, all the essential things you might need. Long extensions, extension for caravan park, all the things I might need at some stage, but I don't necessarily need every day. Electric chainsaw it is, and still electric chainsaw, it works a treat. Off-road hitch on the camper, and I've just recently installed a new braking system actually. I'm going to review that, but it seems to be working crackerjack. Electrics is, I suppose, and everybody talks about off-grid these days, easy word to say, hard thing to achieve effectively. So I've made a few changes and I haven't quite got it right for this trip. It was a bit of a rush to get the new configuration in place. And the other thing is the solar panel, my iTech World solar panel. Now I rate their solar panel, guys. I've got a lot of iTech gear as far as electronic goes, and I rate their gear. But that poor old solar panel, it's a 200 watt, I think. That solar panel has had nearly 4 years of abuse. It's been driven over twice. Oh look, it's been walked on numerous times. After night when there's a few of us been around the campfire and the wobbly boots going on. Footprint there from Fergs. He's a big dog, big gentle giant, but you can see he's got a footprint there. I've driven over it twice. So it's had a bit of abuse and it's still cracking on. It's actually got a little dent in it where I drove over the other day and a stone pushed up, but it's still working and really well. The material's very faded, but it's held together. It's not ripping or falling apart. And that solar panel has had 3 years of full-time sun for 8 months, and we're talking about days where it's 35, 37, 42 degrees. So I really do rate that solar panel. I've had others that haven't taken anywhere near the abuse, and to be quite honest, if you want to test your solar panel and see how good it is, give one to me, because I don't have much empathy, I think is the word, for looking after solar panels. I tend to knock them around a bit. Showering, keeping clean, washing. I have a shower and such there. I use this as my washing area. So I've got this is actually an IGT table, but I've got this set up, you know, so I can do all my washing, dry it out. I'll be putting that away as soon as I finish the video. You know, full outside communications when I'm in camp with Starlink. That has been a game changer for so many people out in the remoteness of the Goldfields and anywhere remote that people are travelling. A very simple kitchen area. I don't go a la carte, so to speak, out bushes. Full electronics in the camper, so we spoke about off-grid, but you can see I'm down on charge a bit, and that's a result of the amount of power that I draw out of the camper in comparison to the amount of power that I'm managing to put in. A lot is storage in the dot. You can see I've got another fridge here. This is a fridge freezer. Unfortunately, the thermostat packed it in on this, and consequently that's why my battery is still low, because only the last couple of days I've turned it off because I realised that I was getting up in the morning and like 50% of power was being whacked out of the battery, and I found out the thermostat's gone in that, and it's running pretty much all the time. So instead of just heating it for 10%, and it's not even hot overnight, so instead of it just whacking it for 10% of battery overnight, which I'd get back in the first 3 hours of solar in the morning with a good solar panel, or I should say not using an old worn out solar panel, it'd be fine. As far as shelter goes, I mean, for me, you know, and I just want to reiterate, when I'm prospecting full time, I'm, 8 to 9 months out bush, with only maybe a week's break in between every 8 weeks. Last year we didn't even do that. We went from one spot to another. We didn't even have a break in between 40Es, and I think we ran for about 6 months, me and my 2 other friends and their partners, without a day off. So we went pretty hard last year. It was a bit too hard, I think. We all agreed that we probably wouldn't do that again. You do need to have a bit of a break. So taking a week off between 40Es and getting to the coast or doing something, I think for prospectors is kind of important. So is it a tough life for a prospector? I don't think so. I really like it. Would it be a tough life for somebody to take on? I think so, especially if they expect their partner to come out. I mean, you've got to be a special type of woman to either keen in prospecting or, just keen in being away from, the rat race, to come and live in these sorts of conditions. To be honest, I'm a little bit more comfortable, at night out bush than what I am in the city. And I don't like the burbs, guys. I'll go a bit crazy after a while. It tends to make me angry if I live in the city too long. So I suppose it's very hard for me to put across that, what the lifestyle of a prospector is. I go to bed generally 8 o'clock at night, if not earlier. when I'm out with friends, we'll always have a chat for a little bit. Certainly more so, may even have a drink around the fire. Most nights when it's cooler. This time of the year, I'm up at, I'm awake at 5 o'clock, out of bed at 5:15, on the road by 6 at the latest. I'd like to be on the ground by 6. Normally I'd be parked where I'm actually prospecting, so I'd be hitting the ground at 5:30. And you're prospecting, until you're done or until it's too hot. And then you come back. There's always a bit of housekeeping to do when you get back. You've got a few things to clean. You've got to charge your gear. You've got to have a bit of a clean up yourself. You have to have a wash, so it's not a matter of just stepping in the shower. You've got to organise a bit of hot water if you're using hot water. You have to, just organise a shower point. Put a mat down or something and pick a spot where you can have it, we can have a shower. So there's a lot of things to deal with, but I think that I wouldn't say I have to deal with them because it's just part of prospecting for me, and I suppose as part of a prospector's life. Flies is one thing that people often can't deal with. The flies are terrible. Today hasn't been too bad because it was very windy and now settling down, but the wind's dropped right off and the flies really started coming back in. For me, I'm pretty much straining my drinks and sharing my food with flies. They if I'm making sure something, they tend to dive bomb in it like a kamikaze. They tend to dive bomb into the food and get stuck, and I suppose you get to a point where you can't be bothered getting them all out. I generally swallow about 6 flies a day, or at least hack half of them back up. The mozzies haven't been too bad, but they do get bad at times. We just have to deal with it and get on with the jobs. Oh, I just had to jump ahead then, guys, because I swallowed another fly. So I think I've covered my protein requirements for the day. I won't need to throw any meat in the stew tonight. Laurie and Joe over there ready to have a bit of a chat over a cup of coffee. So I'll go over and see how they've done. That's pretty much a rundown of the lifestyle. And what? It's about as best as I think I can do to give you a bit of a feel for what it might be like. It's getting dark now. We can't floodlight the area. Once again, we've got to conserve power, but we'll have some lighting, and I'll throw some lighting on right now. In fact, I'll probably just throw the courtesy lights on at this stage. So it just gives me an area of light, so I can walk back over. All right, team. I hope that's given you a bit of an oversight of what the lifestyle might be like. I suppose the thing that I would impress on somebody the most is, this is camping, but this is 8 or 9 months of the year. I love it. Guys I go out with love it. Lots of people love it, but I'm sure there's many people that would hate it and couldn't imagine what it'd be like to have to live like this. But it is what it is, and if you're strong enough, it's a great life. What do you reckon, Fergs? Make a cup of coffee and get it? Yes? Okay. See you, team.
Like holy water, like salt on a bird, rain and a drought, it's all over now.